You've got the network effect, which is simply providing a service that increases in value as the number of users expands. You can aggregate demand between fragmented parties. Think of distributors. Henry Schein is a dental distributor. So basically, most dentists are little owner-operators, 2, 3, 4, 5 dentists in a practice, and then they've got to buy stuff. They've got to buy those obnoxious cotton things that stick in your mouth and suck up the saliva and give you cotton mouth, literally. You've got to buy dental drills and all kinds of stuff. And basically, what they're doing is aggregating fragmented demand, fragmented supply, and they bring the two together and extract a lot of economic rents by doing that. One thing to watch for here is that one reason the network effect works so well is the nonlinearity of nodes versus connections. So if you have a web and you have the number of nodes in that web goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, the number of connections increases exponentially. So that is something that makes it very hard to replicate a network once the network gains scale, something that Googlers should be pretty familiar with, I think. One thing you want to watch for, though, is radial versus interactive networks. So the interactive network is what I just described, the web, where each node interacts with the other. A radial network is less valuable. So this was a good lesson I learned at Morningstar when we looked at Western Union. So Western Union sends a lot of, helps people send money from place to place. And they talk about, we have the most number of branches of any money transfer organization in the world, which is true. The problem is that no one is sending money from Bangladesh to Mexico City. They're sending money from Mexico City to Chicago, or from Mexico City to LA, or from Bangladesh to Chicago. We have a huge Bangladeshi community there. No one's sending money from Bangladesh to Mexico City or vice versa. So that route means nothing. So it's basically a series of channels, a series of spokes off different nodes that are easier for a competitor to pick off by underpricing service in that node. So radial networks are much, much less robust than interactive ones, we found. And then the final type of moat, cost advantages. This is kind of self-explanatory. But the thing is, there's a couple of differences here that you should look for when you're looking at companies. A process-based advantage is basically inventing a cheaper way to do something that is hard to replicate quickly. Southwest did this. Dell did this. Ryanair did this. Inditex, which owns the Zara brand, you may be familiar with. Great example that everyone. They had the clothes made in Sri Lanka, the clothes made in Bangladesh because it was really cheap. But of course, because of transport links, you have to basically make a fashion bet 6 months in advance. What Inditex figured out was that if they nearshore it, if they get the stuff made in North Africa, get the stuff made in Eastern Europe, they could have much faster response times, much faster responses to different fashion trends. Now you can copy that, right? You can copy that, but it works pretty well while you're doing it. And so process-based cost advantages tend to work well, but then they get copied eventually. Southwest no longer has the lowest cost per available seat mile. People saw what they did and copied it. Scale, by contrast, when you spread your fixed costs over a large base, that tends to be much, much more robust. So think about this big network of brown UPS vans going around a neighborhood. What's the additional cost of putting one more package on the UPS van? De minimis, right? And so your margin on that is very, very high. Very difficult to compete. Good example, DHL, which is a wonderfully run business, has a very dense network in Europe. They lost over $1 billion trying to compete with UPS and FedEx in the ground market in the US. Couldn't do it, simply because they couldn't scale up. There weren't as many yellow vans as there were brown vans and blue and white vans. Scale-based advantages, especially in distribution, are incredibly robust.